All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. All right, before I get going on this video, here is Grand Design. This is their album. It's called Rock, R-A-W-K, autograph copy right there, all the way from Sweden. This is their second album, and the description is pretty easy. It's Def Leppard and TNT just combined into one sound. The singer is very unique in this band. I love the packaging here and the design on the CD. Just really cool. Again, these guys are nice enough to send that all the way from Sweden. A lot of bands and a lot of record labels just don't want to do it, even though they're going to get free publicity right here. I'm not charging these guys and they're not paying me to do it. So I just do it because, I don't know, I guess I'm a little weird. You know what's weird too? Modern retro radio. They're weird in a good way because they play stuff that no one else plays. So go check out modernretrofm.com to hear some classic stuff. Also some new stuff by classic artists as well, which again, everybody else, they're afraid to play it. And so Kip Winger, who you might actually hear over on Modern Retro Radio, is speaking out against what happened back in the 90s. One of my favorite topics was the whole glam rock era being displaced by grunge. And I'm not a big grunge fan, as people know. Although, let me say this, and I've said this in a couple of other videos. Compared to what's happening now, grunge is like listening to Al Stewart. You know, it's... I'd rather listen to Stone Temple Pilots than what's on the radio right now. I would. I'm not saying I like it, but again, it's a matter of degrees. Those guys, they played their instruments. I'm not saying they played them well. By the way, Kip Winger is going to agree with me here, which I like a lot. So he was just he did this interview. He was asked if the whole grunge scene killed glam rock. And he says, of course it did. Whoever said it didn't is in complete denial. Even bands like Bon Jovi were struggling to sell tickets. So whoever said that it didn't destroy the industry is misinformed. The grunge thing totally wiped everything out. All right, that's Kip Winger. Now, Kip Winger, of course, was on the receiving end all the time of, here's the pretty boy, here's the cheese master. And Winger was one of those bands, I think, Beavis and Butthead, they used to have like a Winger t-shirt. One of them, I think it was Butthead that wore the shirt. Of course, they wore AC/DC. They wore a lot of other shirts, but because they were Beavis and Butthead, it was like, oh, so they like Winger, so Winger must be stupid. And again, it's the whole melodic rock era. That Winger stuff, some of it, if you go back and listen to it, it's aged really well. Now, a couple of the more ballad-oriented songs might not sound as good these days. But keep in mind, Winger just dropped an album a couple of months ago. And again, the media here in the United States just looking the other way. And if you go listen to any of the songs from the album, this isn't like your dad's version of Winger. Not to say that that version was bad, but I think their stuff is really good and really underrated. And Kip Winger is just a great musician. And all the guys in that band are really accomplished and really good. Winger then pointed out how the Seattle scene didn't last very long. And he's right. Funny thing is, the grunge thing didn't last very long. There weren't that many great bands that came out of there and not many good songs. I love this guy. He says, don't get me wrong. Some great guys came out of there. Of course, he had to mention Dave Grohl, but it was short-lived, which was nothing new. Then, when the rocker was asked if he didn't like grunge, Kip was quick to clarify his opinion on the genre, answering, whether his hatred was the reason for his negative criticisms. He says, no, it wasn't that. He says, I could recognize that Kurt Cobain wrote some genius lyrics on Smells Like Teen Spirit. Now, he didn't say writes genius licks or composes great material. He complimented the energy, which he says here was raw and cool, and it was like the antidote for all the crap that we were doing. We were very oversaturated, and any buffoon could see that, which, again, is kind of true. But here's where I've always come down as far as how music at that point could coexist. Like, okay, so too much of this glam metal, this cheesy music, why do we have to go to this extreme where the music is just 180 degrees from that? Again, we also had a blues rock revival in progress. People forget guys like Robert Cray and Gary Moore and Buddy Guy. All of these artists were on the radio, and then they went away too. They weren't cheesy. There wasn't anything cheesy about blues rock. Blues rock is the essence of real rock and roll, and it disappeared along with everything else. So again, my argument with all of this is that it didn't have to be this way. He went on to talk about Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, and maybe even Stone Temple Pilots. He says here, they were great. He says, I love them, but the scene didn't really produce that many great bands beyond that. This wasn't the only time Kip took on grunge and stated his distaste for the genre. So Kip Winger has been pretty consistent. And just to, again, reiterate, the band's new album, 7, came out in May, and you should go and listen to that album. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you're a Winger skeptic and you think they're still doing the same material that they did back in 1990 or whatever. That's fine. There's a built-in bias there, and I don't know. I think Kip Winger over the years has done a lot to dispel the notion that he was just some pretty boy who wrote songs that only certain people would like, namely, female fans. That's very far from the truth. Even the classics like Headed for a Heartbreak, that's a complicated song, especially the ending to that song. And you don't hear that song at all anywhere. I mean, they should play it because not only is it a great song, but it's just a great change of pace. I mean, we're always hearing the same stuff over and over again. That's why you need to go listen to Modern Retro Radio, people. That's it, modernretrofm.com. One more time, too, on Grand Design, right? Just a really cool album cover. And you won't be hearing this on the radio. And this is glam rock right here. This is straight up glam rock. These guys, they're not ashamed of being glam rockers. Def Leppard meets TNT and maybe a couple of other things you'll hear in there. But I really like it, and I want to thank the guys for sending it out to me. And also, again, folks, give Winger a try. Their album 7 is out there. That era, it's just too bad that the music that we all grew up listening to couldn't have just continued alongside this new genre, which, as Kip Winger says, kind of went away pretty quick. By the late 90s, it was over. It was pretty much over. So all of that death and destruction to other forms of music, and it didn't last very long. So that's the whole point of Kip Winger's statement here. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Patreon for a mere $1 a month if you want to do that. I lost a couple of patrons. Sort of self-inflicted issues. It's a long story. But if you can help me out, $1, $2 a month. Also, YouTube memberships. Gonna be doing some YouTube membership content for just members pretty soon. So stay tuned for that if you're a YouTube member. In the meantime, God bless you, God bless everyone, and God save the world. See you soon.